We're working to connect a region of over 600 cultural bridges between our lands.
Hello and welcome to ASEAN in Focus. I'm Alma Angeles. Today we are privileged and honored to have with us Mr. Romy Udanga. Mr. Romy Udanga is the chairman, multicultural sector of Labour Party in New Zealand. He's also a Labour Party candidate for North Shore electorate. Good afternoon, sir. Good evening over there. So pleased to have you join us today. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Alma, and I would like to say hello to all the listeners and viewers who are tuned into your station tonight. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Sir, what are the significant developments in your country right now, in New Zealand right now?
One of the good things that we've heard is we came down to just 8 new cases of COVID-19 today. So first time that we're hitting single-digit numbers. But sadly, we also had 2 deaths, and that brings the death toll now to 11. The numbers have been creeping up slowly. We're now, I think, 1,400 or more, 1,409 specifically, cases in New Zealand. But out of that, we have 816 cases that have been reportedly were able to recover from COVID-19. So that's something like 60% of those who had COVID-19 in New Zealand have recovered. The sad part is we lost people. You know, in New Zealand, the reason why the government went hard and went hard early is so that we can save lives in New Zealand. So we knew that we were going to lose lives, but it's still sad knowing that we actually lost 11 people so far. So that's what's happening in New Zealand. The other good thing is, out of those who have COVID-19, we only have 14 people in our hospitals, which means to say our hospital system in New Zealand is very much in a position to really service people who will be in that position to need medical assistance during this period.
Yes, go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
The other thing that is new is we had an update as to how far the wage subsidy that the government has initiated reached the people in New Zealand. Very early on, the package that the government delivered was in the tune of $12 billion.
Okay.
And they allocated that and said, okay, we need to improve our health system, make it ready for COVID-19. And a big part of that was to support workers and sole traders whose livelihood will be affected by the lockdown that was announced by the government. So looking at the numbers today, we have distributed up to $10 billion. And those $10 billion went to roughly 1.6 million people. So these are workers and sole traders. The structure of our economy in New Zealand is our businesses. About 80% of our businesses are small and medium-scale businesses.
Okay.
So for the sole traders, making sure that they have the subsidy coming from the government is something that is really, really good. It keeps the economy flowing.
Okay.
It's a big amount too, $585 over a period of 12 weeks. It was given to every worker who's affected by COVID-19. So these are the non-government workers whose livelihood, who've been told that they have to stay at home to break the transmission of COVID-19. Yeah.
So, actually, that is my next question, how the government is going to deal with the national unemployment arising from this COVID-19 pandemic and its effect on the economy. Actually, the finance minister quoted that New Zealand will face an economic shock, a quantum greater than the 2008 global financial crisis. Now, you talked about the COVID-19 wage subsidy scheme. that has been developed to help businesses and affected workers in the short term as they adjust to the initial impact of COVID-19. But this wage subsidy scheme, is it only for the private sector and not for state government sector workers? As I think I read on the...
Yeah, basically it is for what we call the private sector, non-government entities, because the government entities, their wages, their income continues regardless of whether they are at home or they are in the front line or they're doing service to the community or even if they're working at home. The wages are paid for by the government. So it's the non-government sector that is affected a lot because businesses, private entities, when the government said we're going to lock down, of course, the businesses will not have revenue over that period, while their cost will continue. So that is one way for the government to make sure that while there is impact on workers in the private sector and businesses as well, businesses and their workers will continue to have that connection so that when we get out of COVID-19, we can be assured that we have the people that we need to run businesses and to run industries. Yeah. So
yes,
the numbers are big when you look at it. So far, 20 billion has been spent by the government in making sure that the people have the money and the economy continues to function. So 20 billion, but half of that has been given directly to workers. Okay, these are people. These are named people actually. So we know who the people are who receive the wage subsidies, and the 1.6 million people that we're talking about constitutes about 60% of our workers and sole traders in New Zealand. So that's a big chunk. Considering that, let's say, the other 25-30% belong to the government sector, then there is a 10 to 15% of workers who continue to work and continue to receive regular pay from their employers. So those are very good numbers when you look at the support that people are getting.
Okay, so how is Parliament working with the government in passing measures for the government and the Prime Minister in coping with this actually slowing economy already? Yeah.
Yeah. Parliament is still going on, and of course, they do it via video conferencing. So there's a lot of software, a lot of applications that are now picking up in New Zealand. You've got Zoom, Skype, Facebook Live, and all the other applications that are being used. Parliament is still going on, and we are waiting for the Prime Minister to make an announcement in 3 days' time, actually, because with the data that's coming out, we want to know if the Prime Minister is going to allow us to get out of lockdown or if we have to continue with the lockdown. So that's what the nation is waiting for. We'll hear about that on the 20th of April. So that's 3 days from now. You mentioned something about the finance minister talking about some dismal forecasts, actually.
Yes.
There was a Treasury report, and that Treasury report outlined what the impacts will be to New Zealand during COVID and post-COVID-19. But that report is not the position of the government, by the way.
Okay.
The position of the government will be known and will be announced by the government during the daily update that they are delivering to the people. One of the items in there is a scenario that will show 13 to 26% of unemployment in New Zealand, and we already heard the Prime Minister saying we cannot allow that. And right now they're looking at ways to make sure that that does not happen. There has been a new announcement of packages that are targeted specifically, for example, to the small and medium enterprises, which comprise, as I said, 80% of the businesses in New Zealand. So that support, like for example, businesses who have paid their taxes already can request that the taxes they paid for be paid back to them because of what we call a tax loss carryback system. So we're now assuming that instead of say the first quarter of the financial year or the second quarter of the financial year being good years, we're now expecting that the whole year will not be that good. So those who have paid their taxes very early on a monthly or quarterly basis can now request that their taxes be paid back to them. So that is something like 3.1 billion going back to small and medium enterprises. Again, a lot of help going to businesses.
What about our Filipino, our kababayans over there? Do you have any updates for us on those who are affected by this crisis?
Yeah, we can classify our kababayans here as the residents and the citizens. So there's not much of a problem for those who are residents and citizens. Then we can have a look at, say, for example, our workers, people who are on work visa. And roughly 90% of those who are on work visa are either receiving their current salaries or are in that wage subsidy scheme that we talked about, right? There is maybe 10% or even less than 10% of them who have fallen into a gap. People or workers who have resigned and were intending to move to new employers who are now prevented from doing that. Workers who have been in the process of going into new employment, now prevented from going into that. The good thing about this is, in terms of support, there are several groups, actually, Filipino groups, who are supporting people in New Zealand in that category, and even including students and those on tourist visa, and they are being provided with food support if they need food support. Yeah. I dare not mention the names here because if I mention one and I miss the other,
Yes.
I don't want them to feel bad about this. But I know of several who are doing this, several groups, and also the government has released a lot of has released funds to those community groups who are providing food to the different communities. So even Filipinos who are, say, on tourist visa or say work visa but are not able to work, they can call those numbers. They can call on the groups that are providing food, and their food will be delivered to them via courier. Yeah, so that's one good thing that's happening as well in New Zealand.
What about your frontline healthcare staff and other frontliners who are actively exposed? What are you doing for them, for example?
There's one data that was announced this morning, and to date, out of the thousands of healthcare workers that we have, 128 have reportedly been infected by COVID-19, so that's 1 to 8. The study, however, points that about half of them were acquired outside of the workplace environment. So roughly 60 workers, we still haven't determined whether they got the COVID-19 in the workplace or outside of the workplace. So that is something that I'm waiting comments on as well. How many of the 128, sorry, how many of the 60 workers who were infected but not outside of the workplace, how many of them can we attribute to them being infected in the workplace? Yeah. We have received PPEs, and there are now guidelines coming from the Ministry of Health into district health boards the way distribution is happening, by the way, is it comes from instruction comes from the Minister of Health, and then it goes to the, maybe you can say, regional district health boards. And the regional district health boards are the entities that distribute the equipment, the personal protection equipment, not only to the hospitals, but to all the frontline institutions that need them, right? So home cares, elderly care, and even including the hospitals that we have. Yeah. The situation, sorry, just to qualify it, the situation in New Zealand is that we don't have that many private hospitals. So many of the hospitals are public in New Zealand, which makes it easier for us to distribute PPEs to the public hospitals. However, when it comes to the provision of help to, say, the aged care sector, many are private entities, and many of them are not that big. So those are the ones that the medium industry ones that are needing support in terms of PPE as well.
The Prime Minister is going to announce on Monday whether the lockdown measures will be eased. This will be on Monday?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes. So, what will she base that on easing the lockdown measures there in New Zealand?
A lot of factors come into play. Like, for example, today we said that we're down to single-digit new infection numbers. But that's only one of the factors. The other factors would be up to the Ministry of Health to supply to the government, including the tendency or let's say, just the probability of us going back to lockdown stage again. It's the way the government is saying this is, if we are on alert level 4 now and we go down to alert level 3, we have to make sure that we don't go back to alert level 4. Alert level 4 is the country is in lockdown. Alert level 3 is that we allow activities that are safe, meaning to stay social distancing in place, minimize getting interaction with other people, kind of businesses that are providing services will have to abide by them as well. So what we intend to do is that we don't go back to alert level 4 if we can, right? So all the data that the government is looking into, they will base it on a quantum of data that will be available to the government on the day that they will make the decision. That's how it is. The good thing is, even now, the Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has made it clear what to expect, assuming we go to alert level 3. So there is readiness among the people. If, for example, it's announced that we are going to alert level 3, people will not be at a loss on how they will deal with alert level 3. The government is really good in letting us know, setting expectations and knowing how we're going to act during certain circumstances.
As we know, these are not normal times, and there are risks that will need to be managed, no, as in opening the economy. So these, what direction really is the government of New Zealand going to?
I don't want to jump the gun on whatever the government is going to do.
Okay.
Actually, I have my own preference, for example, but I'd rather not say what my preference is. I'm willing to listen to what the government is going to say. They have the data. They would know where the government is going to, the direction that the government is going to take. They would have the measures in place. They will have the financial packages to offer to the community. if you notice, what has happened is the first thing that the government did was to act swiftly and you can say with no regrets. Let's do this. It has to be done. And once that was done, they did something to improve the confidence of the people by providing cash flow in terms of the wage subsidy and support to businesses, right? This comes, if you look at it, it's not a phase like one stops and the next one will get into play. It's more like an overlapping waves, right? So you've got wave one is still rippling, and then there's a wave coming, and it's still rippling, and then there will be a third wave coming, and it will the ripple effect will still be felt. So the third wave will be to act in coordination and to secure support for the financial and business sector. And this is what the government is looking at now. They're even talking about increasing the package available for us to get out of COVID-19 by another $20 billion. So far, $20 billion have been allocated and spent. They're looking at another 20 billion in case we need it, just so we can secure our businesses and financial institutions and get out of this in the economy in a much better condition than expected.
Another maybe sensitive matter altogether. In some countries, Asians are facing discrimination, stigma. It has ranged from vandalism or verbal abuse. How is New Zealand dealing with this unsettling problem? Do you have this problem in New Zealand as well?
So far, out of the 100 news items or let's call information that's relayed to me, I have not heard one that has to do with discrimination. And I think it's because New Zealand is a very, very open country. It is a very, very diverse country. We have more than, in the capital alone, Auckland, we have more than 200 ethnicities. And we've learned to live with each other, to not just to tolerate each other, but to understand what each other means and what is important to each other. There is a lot of respect, I would say, in New Zealand for diversity, and that example is coming from the Prime Minister as well. Yeah. You know, the mantra of Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern is "be kind," right? Every time that she goes on television, that mantra of "let's be kind to each other, let's be kind, let's be kind, let's show kindness to people," that has always been coming out. So that kindness is now infecting the whole of New Zealand, and it's showing. Kindness begets respect, and there's respect showing among our diverse communities.
All right, before we let you go, any last message for us, sir, during this crisis?
During this crisis,
Yes.
One of the things that we do at home is we pray for people who are on the front line, especially our medical people, wherever they are in the world. I would like to request the viewers and your listeners to do the same thing. Say a prayer for the people. We don't know who they are. They may be our relatives, family members of our family, or friends, or unknown to us. But let's say a prayer for them. They're doing a lot for us. This is not an economic failure. This is a medical failure. This is, yes. And we need to look at it from that perspective, our new heroes, those who are in the medical front line.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your time, and stay safe. Look out for each other. Thank you so much for that message.
And thank you so much, Alma.
Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you for the opportunity.
Eagle News, we'll be right back.
program is co-presented by Kubert Industries Incorporated, Electromechanical Trading and Services, The Cooling Expert, Vita Herbs Philippines Green Coffee, Masarap, Mabango at Healthy Pa. Cadred Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. In participation with Rain or Shine Elastomeric Waterproofing Paint, color for protection for your home. Matimco. Matimco is wood. Wood is Matimco. Our Square Variables Incorporated, your trusted UPS supplier and UPS maintenance provider in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. CompuZell Computer Services, ID card and lanyard manufacturer. DN Steel. EMAC, UPVC Roof Corporation.
Welcome back. Joining us from the Silicon Valley Bureau is our EBC correspondent, Don Orozco. Hello, Don.
Good afternoon, Alma. And,
Good afternoon. How are you? How are you doing, Don?
well, everything's good, and as usual, and as always, we all have to stay safe. And just to let you know, Alma, I do have several news. Of course, I will be updating you on COVID-19 here in the Silicon Valley, as well as parts of the U.S. I will also have some sort of a business, and then technology, and then some other news that will actually be informative to most of our audience. But let me just go first on unemployment, which is the current issue right now. Unemployment right now in the U.S. Has ballooned to about 23 million. Last week, the other day, I actually reported there were about 18 million. But this week, there were an additional 5 million filers, for unemployment benefit. So it has ballooned to 23 million, and 2.7 of those 23 million are actually from California. And all because of COVID-19. And then just to give you an idea, most of the governors in a meeting today with the POTUS, which is the President of the United States, which believes that the COVID-19 has reached its peak. That is why a lot of them are already entertaining to open the U.S. Probably in one state at a time.
Okay.
So more or less, ganun yung, that's how they would like to approach it. And the president just told them, or just coordinate with me, and the discretion will depend on each governor.
Okay.
Apparently, there are not much new cases. That's why they are already considering the reopening. And right now there are about 5,658 that was positive, and 169 deaths in Santa Clara County. And then there's about 27,000 in the whole of California that is tested positive, and about 890 that passed away. And then 640,000 for the whole United States, and 31,000 for the number of deaths. That's overall here in the United States. And then, as I was saying, I do have some news for sports, because the Filipinos love sports, and they love, or not just the NBA, but also MLB, which is the Major League Baseball.
Yes.
So Dr. Fauci was asked if we can resume the Major League Baseball, if we can open it already. And then his reply was, yes, we can. We can open the league already, provided the players should be quarantined in a hotel. That's one. Number two, there won't be no audiences involved, no spectators in any of the arenas.
That was my next question, actually. But yeah, okay, so no audience. All right.
Correct, correct. So those are the things. And then, so again, and the idea of opening the sports to the people, for them to see, is something that people are looking forward, especially here in the U.S. And one other thing is that the downside is in LA. In LA, there are talks from the local government there to ban any big event until the end of this year, which is December. But it still is in the table for discussion. So we will report on that as soon as it is available. And if you have anyone, any relative that is in the elementary school under the San Francisco Unified School District, you are all very lucky, because the district have decided to just give a grade A to everyone.
Wow.
In the school. So irrespective of your class standing, I know, Alma,
But that's unfair
when
to
you were in school.
A students who are working so hard to get good grades. Don't you think so?
Correct. I know when you were in school, you were, what now? Number one, number two?
Number one, because I was the only one in class.
Okay.
Joke. But yeah.
So that's what the San Francisco Unified District has done for their students.
Okay.
And it is apparently being approved by the board and the Teachers Association. And then, again, it's not that just the Northeast that is considering reopening.
Yes.
So West, it consists of California, Oregon, and Washington State. And then again, sa East, it's New York, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Delaware. You'll be surprised, New York, because it has already flattened the curve.
Okay. But they
That's
have to
why
open
it is,
this slowly or
Yes,
gradually.
yes. That is
What
actually
is their
the plan.
criteria
Is,
for opening the? What is the direction of states? Maybe you can get back with me on that, on their criteria on opening the states and what direction.
I will surely get some, but then again, the president has already directed the governor that it will be on their discretion in reopening.
Okay.
And again, he is encouraging to really open it. But again, there are, especially from the medical field, they are having second thoughts simply because they don't want to recur, and then the problem will again persist. That's the thing. And now, finally, before I go, it's the business news.
Okay.
And this is all for cell phone lovers. Apple is coming up on April 24, which is a few days from now, a telephone, a cell phone for only $399.
What is the original price of Apple there?
Right now, the premium phones will cost you about $1,000, but they will be coming up with a phone that is priced for only $399. And hopefully, when I get a chance to buy one online, which has always been the case now, I will try to get one, and then I will
Unbox
show
it
it
for
so
us?
that the audience get to know what this Apple is.
Okay, so do you know why they're lowering the price of Apple now? Or why they came out with a handset like this? Is it
You
because of
know,
the crisis?
it's probably just what's kind of like reviving an old phone and then just putting some new apps in there. That is why they are trying to come up with a cheaper phone. Plus, of
Affordable one.
course, they want to remain to be the number one company here in the United States.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Don, for your time. Thank you so much. Always good to see you.
Sure, and reporting live here in the Silicon Valley in the city of San Jose. This is Don Orozco, and we are one with 25, and we live in interesting times.
Meanwhile, Vietnam had proposed strategies to help international community fight the COVID-19. That and more from our EBC correspondent in Hanoi, Charlene Navaja. Hello, Charlene.
Xin chào, Alma. Xin chào to all the viewers. So,
Good to hear from you.
yeah, the updates in Vietnam. So yesterday I spoke about the conversation between the Prime Minister Nguyen Xuan Phuc and the Swedish government. So today it's between the phone call of the Foreign Minister Pham Binh Minh and the Australian Foreign Minister Maurice Payne. So they had the phone call yesterday to look into bilateral and regional cooperation in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic's complex developments. So the Deputy Prime Minister Minh highlighted Vietnam and ASEAN's effort in response to the outbreak, emphasizing the importance of regional and international cooperation in this regard, including the collaboration between ASEAN and Australia. And applauding the two countries' frequent effective contact amid the pandemic, he asked both sides to continue with their efforts to promote cooperation in all spheres via existing mechanisms to sustain the development of their strategic partnership. And then for the part of Prime Minister Payne, she spoke highly of Vietnam's initiatives and leadership as ASEAN chair in 2020. And she also affirmed that Australia wished to work more closely with Vietnam in the fight against COVID-19 within both bilateral and ASEAN-Australia partnership framework. So the same with Vietnam's relationship to Swedish government. Foreign Minister Payne also appreciated Vietnamese government's effective medical and consular support for Australian citizens affected by the pandemic, and said her country's Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade would coordinate with the Department of Education and other relevant agencies to continue creating favorable conditions for Vietnamese students who are in Australia now. So during their phone call, Alma, they both agreed to increase the sharing of experience in COVID-19 prevention and control. That's including the possibility of cooperating to develop vaccines, to produce and trade medical supplies. Both also agreed to organize an annual meeting between the two foreign ministers, slated for the third quarter of 2020. That's either in Australia or just online, to discuss measures to enhance their strategic partnership. The meeting would focus on bilateral ties in healthcare, food security, mitigating the outbreaks in socioeconomic impacts, the recovery of trade and tourism, and other aspects once the pandemic is over. So the Deputy Prime Minister Minh made the suggestions while addressing the ministerial video conference on the Alliance for Multilateralism on COVID-19 on Thursday. And Alma, these are the COVID-19 strategies Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Minh proposed to help the international community. So first is enhancing international solidarity and multilateralism, cooperation with United Nations and World Health Organization being the center, and increasing operation efficiency of the organization to ensure ability to support developing countries. So within its ability, Vietnam will contribute to this effort and be willing to provide made in Vietnam medical equipment and materials. So yesterday I mentioned about Vietnam donating masks. So those were actually made from Vietnam. And second is to promote sharing of information, experience, and research results. And vaccines and medicines must be available, affordable, and accessible to all. And the third one is stopping the activities that hinder disease prevention and control efforts. So, particularly power politics and unilateral actions contrary to international law and supporting the UN Secretary General's call for a global ceasefire and his appeal to waive sanctions that can undermine countries' capacity to respond to the pandemic. And the fourth one is to prepare the post COVID 19 development plan, which includes coordinated policies and measures to stimulate the economy, trade and investment, stabilize the financial market, and restore the confidence of businesses and people. And just an additional report on school reopening, Alma. So many provinces and cities, particularly at high risk of COVID-19 outbreak, will continue to keep schools closed, while others have not decided on a date to reopen schools yet. So the closure of schools in the northern part of Hanam will last until May 3rd. School leaders and teachers have been told to guide students to study at their home and to assign exercises. The province's Department of Education and Training is also expected to cooperate with television and radio to broadcast lessons, especially literature, mathematics, English, and for the ninth and 12th graders. The northeastern coastal province of Quang Ninh will continue school closure until April 30, while the Mekong Delta province of Dong Thap will keep schools closed until May 2nd. Ninth and 12th graders in the Mekong Delta province of Kamau will go back to school on April 20th. The other grades will continue to stay at home until the Department of Education and Training has a new announcement. So schools are expected to divide ninth and 12th grade students into smaller groups to teach. Social distancing should be carried out also when parents pick up their children at schools. And schools are asked to spray and disinfect the facilities to ensure safety for both teachers and students. So Hanoi and Da Nang are included on the list of high-risk cities for COVID-19. So they are expected to extend the social distancing. So just like the report yesterday, it was extended to April 22nd, but it can be extended to April 30 or even longer. So depending on specific conditions. So the schools in Hanoi and Da Nang have been closed from April 16 and will announce the later time to reopen. In Ho Chi Minh City, which is also on the list of high-risk cities, the time for reopening schools has not been decided yet. Alma?
Much for that update, and we'll see you back tomorrow or next week. Please keep safe, stay healthy, and thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you so much, Alma. You take care too. So this has been Charlene Navaja bringing you live updates from Hanoi, Vietnam. We live in interesting times.
All right, and we have a special report coming in from our EBC correspondent in Bangkok. Faye, what do you have from us? For us, rather. Hello, Faye.
Good afternoon, Alma, and good afternoon to all the viewers as well. Yeah, before I present the story or the special feature for everybody and for you, I would just like to give some short updates about here in Thailand, because according to the Ministry of Education, they have already declared the school opening would be on July 1. The usual school opening here, Alma, is will happen like usual, like May or the second week of May. However, because of this, many Filipinos here are like OFWs are usually the teachers. So I'm going to present a short story of one of the OFW here. Here in Thailand, his name is Mr. Ron Paolo Dendusai, and then he is an Educational System Technological Institute graduate of a secondary education major in computer education. He has been teaching here for almost 3 years, and I've talked to him earlier, and then he is going to tell some stories or some experiences that he had during this pandemic situation. Alma?
Okay, let's listen in. Let's watch this.
I've been teaching here in Thailand for already 3 years for senior high school in Dipangkorn, Tayapat, which is a public school.
Yes, 3 years is really long. 3 years is really long stay here. Do you teach high school students or primary students?
Yes, I do teach grade 9 and grade 12.
The Ministry of Education has announced that the school opening would be on July 1. What is your stand here? And may I know what would be your plans in staying here? Because the usual school opening starts in May, right?
Yes, that's you're truly correct with that. July 1st is the start of the classes here in Thailand. It was already announced by the government, especially the Ministry of Education here. And for my plans here, actually, our school is helping us out in terms of doing an online teaching starting from May, since that is on our contract for us to continue teaching the students over online teaching. So we prepared materials for that. And they also taking care of what we call SSS, cash aids for us. So that's roughly going to take about the 50% amount of the 100% of our basic salary in the school. That really helps us a lot in terms of coping with the pandemic happening right now, because all of us is really affected, not only in Thailand, the Philippines, not only in Asia, all over the world. So it's really understandable for the adjustment that they made for us to be safe as well. And I believe that the government is also doing their best, especially here in Thailand, to make sure the safety of OFWs like me as a teacher.
You know, many Filipinos here in Thailand, they always say the word mahirap. They always say the word napakahirap dito sa Thailand. What is your stand there?
Well, the word is really cliche that all of the OFW, they always say mahirap, napakahirap. It's really part of our values as Filipinos. But also, I also believe that Filipinos always steadfast for being whatever they want, they can be able to achieve it. That's why we are OFW, we're strong enough, we're still here. Not only happened for pandemic issues or concerns, even there's no COVID-19, I also believe that Filipinos can move on at the same time, stay.
Mm-hmm. And since March, did you receive any salary from your employer?
My last salary was last March. So this April, I don't have. Since this is the cutoff or for the semester, so it's gonna be no work, no pay.
Mm-hmm.
So
All right, okay.
so my avenue for that for me to my because usually we also do have part-time jobs for doing online teaching as well. So that's also what I do right now. I applied for online teaching with different schools. Actually, it's an international online teaching job.
Um, because you have mentioned that no work, no pay, and the
Yeah.
Ministry of Education has declared that the school opening will be on July 1. So for the part-time job that you have mentioned, I would just like to know, you can answer this if you want, or if you do not want, it's okay also. Can you also identify that as enough support for you?
Honestly speaking, you really need to have a tight budget. You need to, of course, budget yourself until the 1st of July so that you can be able to to survive. That's the word. Survive.
Right, right. Survive na kahit
True.
mahirap. Right?
Yes, laban lang. Yan ang dugong Pilipino laging lumalaban
Yes.
sa kahit anong hirap ng buhay.
Yes, and there is also some other news that they are signing a petition. Some groups of OFW here in Thailand, they are having some petition for directing to urge the Philippine government to give financial aid or support to the Filipinos here. However, Thailand is not the priority there. What is your stand there?
Well, in terms of that, I really, of course, at first I was shocked, though
Mm-hmm.
we really need to also expand our understanding of things because I actually, as a Filipino citizen, I understand that there are really need for aid first in my country, in the Philippines. Of course, it's really sometimes some people say it's unfair, though for me personally, I would say the government are doing their best in the Philippines. I truly understand they only have limited budget. So it's for us OFW to also adjust to whatever the circumstances that our government is doing. Because I believe that our government is just doing their part. And I can see the, the Filipinos are also doing their best as well to adjust to the policies of the government. Same with us, OFW. I'm so sorry if I'm not speaking to the majority. Some people might say it's unfair, but we
It's okay.
OFW are really, we can adjust and we are survival of the fittest here. And I believe that we can do it. That's a good question. The good thing about my school, it's a public school wherein my my head teachers already told us that they're going to process the papers for that. All we just need to do is just wait for the release of that cash aids for us. And I'm really thankful for the for Thai government for giving us opportunity to be part of their cash incentives because I saw on the news that this is not only for the locals here in Thailand, also for foreigners who are working here. And being a Filipino, I'm very glad and thankful to Thai government for allowing us to be part of this particular program. I had a good news as well
Mm-hmm.
because I just want to share to you, to all the Filipinos, that we got COVID insurance covered here. We do it online by my friend because most of the OFW Filipino workers here avail that. So just to be, to be safe, to feel at ease with the treatment, with the hospital bills that, if should be covered by the hospital bills by this insurance. And another thing, I'm really thankful with the Thai people, especially with my the people here, the Thai administration in my condo unit, in my apartment, wherein they actually gave us this paper as an
Mm-hmm.
assurance that we have a discounted price for the payment for the rental, at least starting May and June. That's
Wow.
roughly 500 baht is really a big help for us.
Yes, it's really a good and it's a good help. It's a good help. It will be a great help to you guys in there. All right. So you're
Yes,
given
that will.
like the less 500 baht for 2 months?
Yes, and the good thing here, I heard from my other friends, they have 1,000 baht discounted price for the rental bills, May and June as well with their monthly bills.
All right, that's great. So you're just going to think of the food that you're going to have in there. Did you stock some food in your apartment?
Yeah, absolutely. I have here,
Yeah.
the most common, the noodles, the
Noodles.
sardines,
Okay.
the basic food, the rice. I also have
Mhm.
bread and
Yeah,
the
we are really a rice lover.
true. And
Yeah.
the good thing here, the rice price here in Thailand is very cheap, so it's really affordable. Correct. And so that's why still, even you're an OFW here in Thailand, we're still feeling blessed as they say in Filipino term. Still feeling blessed. Being an OFW is not always the sadness, the pain, and the troubles. There's still the positive side of being an OFW.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
instead, even we are in the middle of pandemic, COVID-19. COVID-19 lang yan, Filipino tayo.
All right. Great. And so the curfew 10 p.m. to 4 a.m.
Good thing you mentioned that because the curfew hours here, currently right now, it's on my time watch, it's already 10 o'clock. So 10
Mm-hmm.
o'clock in the evening until round the clock until 5 a.m. in the morning. That's going to be the time period for the curfew hours. And of course, as an abiding law citizen, you should not go out because if you're going to go out, you need to face the consequences. Here in Thailand, they're very strict because they really want to control the pandemic. So they're making sure that if you're being caught at those time, being going outside, doing some parties, that's really prohibited. So you need to pay 40,000 baht, unfortunately, and you need to be in prison or jail for 24 hours. So
Yeah.
if you don't, just follow the rules, you know, and also a message to the Philippines, to my kababayan there, please, wag pong matigas ang ulo.
All right. Okay. All right. And so the SSS beneficial or the benefits for the unemployed person. So that really helps, correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. And the last one more thing, do you have your family in here in Thailand or there in the Philippines that you want to say something?
Oh, I really missed my family. Actually, living alone is not really easy because my family is living right now in the Philippines, especially in Pasay. Handusay family, hello to my mom, to my father, and to my brother and sister. Hopefully to see you soon. All we just need to do is just pray, and that's also my weapon as well to keep on
Mm-hmm.
going. Being an
Right.
Iglesia Ni Cristo member is really I'm really proud and so happy and grateful because I was blessed to be part of this Church of Christ with the supervision of Kapatid William Regalado, with the guidance of Kay Edwin Estrellado and the church administration, with the local of Rangsit as the Classical District of Thailand. Oh, sa aking mga kababayan, OFW in Thailand, um, alam ko po napakahirap po ng buhay natin dito at marami talagang problem day by day and maraming shocking news around us. Just continue to be steadfast for your faith. At the same time, be prayerful more and more faithful with God. Everything shall follow.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you very much for giving me your time. I hope we're going to meet and to talk again this kind of conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kapon Kap.
All right. Thank you, Faye, for that interview. What did he say? Kapong kap? Is that right?
Yes, Alma.
What does that mean? That means goodbye?
That's the meaning of that is like just saying thank you. Yeah,
Thank
just
you.
saying thank you very much for that time.
Thank you so much, Faye, for that time, too. Thank you for your that interview for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Alma. And this is Faye Barta reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand Bureau, and we live in interesting times. Kapkun ka.
And that is the latest news in and around the ASEAN region. I'm Alma Angeles, and we live in interesting times.
Ang susunod